We didn't notice the scream. There wasn't one. What stood out was the stillness, the kind that settles when something irreversible has already happened. Camille Arden's story doesn't begin with panic. It begins with recognition. She is a forensic compliance analyst, a single mother, someone trained to notice what doesn't belong. And that morning, something essential was missing. This is how she remembers it. I was standing in my kitchen, one sock on, one sock in my hand, when my phone buzzed against the counter. A text preview from Brenna. "You wouldn't have survived without me. This is balance." I didn't answer. I didn't move. I unlocked my phone and opened the banking app the same way I always did. Thumb, face scan, muscle memory. The number loaded, 0, no delay, no error message, just empty. $460,000 erased. Clean and final, I whispered. No, not like a plea. More like a correction. As if the screen had made a typo. June's fund. Every transfer I'd delayed. Every generic grocery run. Every overtime hour, it all lived in that number. My phone buzzed again. "I used the paperwork you signed. Don't make this ugly." I sat down hard. The chair legs scraped, too loud in the quiet. My hands were steady. That scared me more than shaking would have. I opened the transaction details. One wire, authorized, clean, her credentials. I heard June in the hallway, dragging her blanket. "Mom," her voice was thick with sleep. "Why are you sitting on the floor?" I smiled at her without meaning to. I dropped something. The channel lingered there for a moment the way people do when they sense the air change but don't yet know why. June patted closer. "Did Aunt Brenna text you again?" I locked my phone and stood up. "Go back to bed." "Baby." She frowned. "You sound weird." "I know." I kissed her hair. "I just need a minute. Later. If this story stays with you, you'll understand why she didn't scream. And if it resonates, you know where to find us." I waited until June's door clicked shut. Then I opened my laptop. The sister I'd been was done. I opened the Notes app and scrolled. The list was still there. Dates. Names. Little check marks I used to give myself permission to breathe. First surgery. Rehab block 1. Brace replacement. Physical therapy twice a week for a year. A cushion for setbacks. For infections. For nights when pain meant another specialist. $460,000 wasn't a goal. It was a timeline. June leaned against the doorframe again. Quieter this time. "Are you working? Just checking something?" She nodded, accepting that the way kids do when they don't want the truth yet. Her sock had slipped halfway off. She pushed it back with her toe. "You promised we'd still do the pool thing after my surgery. We will." She studied my face. Not convinced. Not arguing either. Then she went back to her room. I sat there longer than I needed to. Long enough to feel the weight of every delay I'd accepted. Every time I told a doctor. Not yet. We're almost there. We noticed how she didn't curse her sister's name. How she kept talking about schedules. Not betrayal. I pulled up the clinic email, the one with the bolded line about surgical windows. I didn't open it. I already knew what it said. My phone vibrated again. "Don't call the bank," Brenna wrote. This was necessary. I locked the screen. My hands still weren't shaking. That scared me. Brenna didn't become the person who took the money overnight. She became her slowly, with everyone watching and calling it loyalty. I learned that story early. "You always leave," my mother used to say on the phone, voice tight, like she was holding something in. "Brenna stays. Someone has to." Stays meant she lived 5 miles away. Stays meant she drove Mom to appointments and reminded everyone of it. Stays meant every holiday conversation circled back to her sacrifice. Brenna leaned into it, not loudly, not angrily, just enough. At Thanksgiving last year, she handed me a glass of wine and sighed. "Must be nice, having a career you can disappear into." I laughed then. Too fast. You could have left too. She smiled, small and patient. Someone had to be here. The room went quiet in that way that lets one version of truth win. I paid for the catering that night. I always did. Later, in the kitchen, she lowered her voice. Mom's prescription went up again. I'll cover it, but I might need help next month. Of course, I told her. The word came out automatically. We noticed how easily she accepted it. No gratitude, no relief, just confirmation. The pressure was never a threat. It was a posture. If I hesitated, I was selfish. If I helped, I was doing the bare minimum. That was the balance she meant. My phone buzzed again. Another message from her. You moved away. This is what staying costs. I stared at the screen until it dimmed. I didn't reply. I finally understood something I'd avoided for years. I hadn't signed paperwork to help my sister. I'd signed into a story where my success was debt, and Brenna was always the one collecting. The hospital room smelled like sanitizer and old coffee. My mouth was dry. My legs felt distant, like they belonged to someone else. Brenna stood near the window, arms crossed, watching the parking lot. They're talking about discharge. She said, You're going to need help for a bit. I nodded, eyes half closed. The pain meds made everything slow, heavy. A clipboard appeared in front of me, forms clipped too tight. This one's temporary, she added, tapping the top page. Medical and financial, just in case something happens. Like what? My voice sounded wrong to my own ears. She turned then, softening. Camille, don't do this. I'm already handling Mom. I can't juggle everything if you're out of it. A nurse hovered, polite, waiting. The pen pressed into my fingers. It doesn't give you control. Brenna said, just access. I wouldn't touch anything you didn't want. I hesitated. My hand shook. Not fear. Exhaustion. Okay. I breathed. Just for emergencies. She squeezed my shoulder. A quick, practiced touch. Of course. We remember how the room went quiet right after the pen moved. How decisions made in pain tend to sound like kindness. Later. Alone. I stared at the signed page in the chart. My name looked smaller than usual. Brenna peeked back in. You did the right thing. I believed her. I needed to. I closed my eyes and let the nurse adjust the blanket, already drifting, unaware that I'd just handed over more than paperwork. At first, Brenna was careful. It started with receipts forwarded late at night, gas, groceries, a copay for Mom's appointment. Small enough to feel reasonable, necessary enough that I didn't argue. Just until things settle. She told me over the phone, You know how tight it is right now. I know. Then the word emergency stretched. A credit card payment she'd missed, a tire that couldn't wait, a deposit on a short-term rental closer to Mom because the drive was exhausting. Each time, she framed it the same way, already stressed, already sacrificing. I approved the transfers while standing in the checkout line or waiting for June after physical therapy. Always in between things. Always telling myself I'd look closer later. One afternoon, June sat at the kitchen table coloring while I scanned my account. Mom, she said without looking up, are we still doing the braces thing for my leg? Yes. The answer came fast. Too fast. That night, Brenna called. I hate asking, she began, which meant she wasn't going to stop. Mom's prescription changed again. I covered it, but I'll handle it. She exhaled, relieved. I don't know what I'd do without you. We noticed how she never said thank you. How the relief always came before the request was even finished. Weeks later, I saw the bigger numbers. Private school tuition for her partner's kid, furniture payments, things that weren't accidents or timing issues, choices. I sat alone at the table long after June went to bed, scrolling through transactions I'd approved with a tired thumb. I wasn't helping my sister stay afloat. I was funding a life she felt entitled to live. When the realization settled, it didn't explode. It went quiet. and something in me finally stopped answering the phone automatically. I waited until the house settled, dishwasher humming, June breathing steady down the hall. Then I opened my laptop the way I did for work, not the way I did for bills. Same screen, different stakes. The transfer log loaded line by line, one wire, clean on the surface. But the routing didn't sit right. It never does when someone's trying too hard. I pulled the metadata, slower now, careful. The money hadn't landed in Brenna's personal account. It passed through a limited liability company registered in Delaware. Generic name, empty history. The kind meant to look boring. Of course, I muttered. Another hop, then another. Processors overseas. Malta, Latvia. Not destinations. Waypoints. My chest tightened, not with panic, but with clarity. This wasn't borrowing. It wasn't even theft in the simple sense. This was laundering, or the start of it. My phone lit up, Brenna again. Have you cooled off yet? I let it ring out. We could feel the shift here. The moment when the story stopped being about sisters and turned into something colder. I opened a new folder and started saving screenshots. Timestamps, authorization records. The exact second my account emptied. A message preview slid across the screen. From Oliver. Once this clears, we're done worrying. I didn't open it. I didn't need to. The dishwasher clicked off. The house went quiet. I closed my eyes for a second. Not to pray, just to steady my breathing. When I opened them, the work was already waiting, and for the first time since the balance hit zero, I knew exactly what this was. Not a family problem. A compliance one. I pulled up the location history next. I hadn't planned to. My hand moved there on its own, like it already knew. Brenna's phone had been busy the afternoon she told me she was driving Mom to cardiology. The map filled in slowly. A long stop near the border. Not a clinic, not a pharmacy, a tribal casino, parking lot. 4 hours. I leaned back and rubbed my eyes. The chair creaked. The house stayed quiet. The timestamps lined up too neatly. Her text asking for help with gas. The withdrawal minutes later. The last of her balance gone. Then my account. My phone buzzed again. A new message. We're almost free, Oliver wrote. Once this clears, we can breathe. I stared at the word free until it blurred. We sat with her there, watching the shape of the story harden. Not messy, not desperate. Decided. The hallway floor creaked. June stood there, clutching her stuffed rabbit, hair flattened on one side. You're still up, she said, just finishing something. She climbed onto the chair across from me, knees tucked under her. Her eyes flicked to the screen, then back to my face. Aunt Brenna's name keeps popping up. She murmured. I closed the laptop halfway. Go back to bed. She didn't move. Did she take my surgery money? The room felt smaller all at once. I didn't answer right away. My silence stretched longer than I meant it to. June nodded once, like she already knew. I closed the laptop the rest of the way and turned toward June. Yes. I told her. My voice sounded steadier than I felt. She took it. June didn't cry. She didn't ask why. She pressed the rabbit tighter against her chest and looked at the floor for a second. Then she knew. She said quietly. She knew what that money was. I reached for her hand. She let me. But her fingers were tense. Go back to bed, I said. I need to make a call. She hesitated at the doorway. Are you going to fix it? I'm going to stop it. That was enough. She nodded and disappeared down the hall. I opened my secure portal and logged in. Same credentials I used every day. Different reason. I flagged the wire as high risk. International routing. Misuse of financial power of attorney. I attached the screenshots. The timestamps. The message preview. My finger hovered for half a second before I hit submit. We felt that pause. The way a choice settles before it becomes irreversible, the system responded faster than I expected. Status changed. Temporary federal hold initiated. Funds frozen mid-route. My phone rang almost immediately. What did you do? Brenna's voice came through sharp, controlled. The account won't load. I didn't touch your account. Camille, don't do this. Her breath sounded tight. This was authorized. Not anymore. A beat. Then her tone shifted, softer. Fix it. Tell them it was fine. You owe me that. I walked to the window and watched a car pass, headlights cutting through the dark. I don't owe you anything, I said. She went quiet. Then, colder. I'm coming over. The line went dead. I stood there, phone still in my hand, listening to the house breathe, knowing the next knock wouldn't be gentle. Brenna didn't come inside that night. She stood on the porch, arms folded, eyes sharp, saying my name like it still carried weight. You're really doing this, she said, not angry, almost impressed. I already did. She watched me for a long second, then shook her head. Mom's going to be heartbroken. I know. That was all there was left. She turned and walked back to her car. No shouting, no apology, just the sound of gravel under tires. Inside, June sat on the couch with her blanket pulled up to her chin. Is it over? For now? She leaned into my side and nodded, already drifting. I stayed there until her breathing evened out, until the house felt normal again. The money came back weeks later, slowly, quietly. The surgery followed, then rehab, then mornings where June walked the length of the hallway without stopping. Some days I still reach for my phone, ready to explain myself. Then I remember I don't have to. Camille Arden doesn't confuse silence with guilt anymore. She knows the difference now. She knows what peace costs and what it doesn't. If this stayed with you, you already know why. We stayed quiet at the end, the way you do when something heavy finally sets down and doesn't ask to be carried anymore.